I mean, would you use the N-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would?
I do quite frequently.
You use the N-word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist. Are you?
Some would say I am. I guess according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
Yeah, well, if you use the N-word repeatedly, you are a racist then, are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that if we didn't.
Do you understand how dumb you sound?
This is stupid. This is stupid and racist, and at some point we have to ask ourselves, do we want to reward this kind of disgusting behavior by platforming it?
You want to use the N-word in relation to them, a word that you know causes that community unbelievable offense?
Is that my fault? Is that my fault? If they have bad behavior, if they want to act in a certain way, if I have to cross the street and be afraid that maybe because of the crime statistics that are very real, by the way, is that my fault or is that their fault for having bad behavior?
Oh, then say it. Say
you
the
will
N-
not have
Go on,
free
say,
speech.
go on. Say the N-word. Go on.
No.
Hang on.
No. I don't want you to invite this woman to say a racially harmful term in front of me.
Here we go again, for God's sakes. I can't believe we even have to say this. A grown woman calling a 5-year-old black child the N-word is beyond unacceptable. It's horrifying. And yet here we are talking about it because not only did it happen, but people are actually debating it as if it were two sides. On a panel moderated by Piers Morgan that included voices like Marc, Lamont, Hill, Myron and Ricky, we saw reactions ranging from righteous fury to jaw-dropping excuses. Marc, to his credit, was so outraged he refused to even let the vile word be used as some shock value stunt. He drew a line. But unbelievably, another guest, Lilly, proudly declares herself as an unshamed racist and tried to defend using the slur under the cowardly guise of free speech. But let's be clear here. Hurling a vicious racial slur at a little kid is not just free speech. It's hate, it's abusive, and hiding behind the First Amendment to justify terrorizing a child is nothing short of moral cowardice. Imagine being that kid, just 5 years old, hearing a stranger scream the worst word in the world at you, and then seeing grown adults on TV actually intellectualize or justify the hatred. It's sickening, and it shows the rot in our society when someone like Shiloh Hendricks, this playground bully caught on camera, can go viral and then get rewarded for it, racking in hundreds of thousands of dollars in donation from people who apparently applaud her racism. That is the broader danger here. When blatant racism gets rewarded with fame, money, and public platform, hate is being normalized and even incentivized. But be the judge of it for yourself. Let's jump in.
Here's the thing. White people have been under attack for years. It's been systematic racism. As much as black people and people of color want to talk about systematic racism in the United States, it's quite the opposite. They get preferential treatment when it comes to getting a job, when it comes to getting into colleges. White people, on the other hand, have been getting attacked relentlessly. Look at 2016 and BLM and all the riots. We just had to sit back and watch people burn down our cities and do nothing about it. So the way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, ingrained in U.S. society is with white unity. We don't see white unity on our side.
Hang on. Okay, but hang on. Sorry, just to be clear, this has got nothing to do with anything you've just said. This is a disgusting racist woman who repeatedly spews the N-word, first at a young child and then at the person taking the video of her, does it with complete impunity, does it numerous times. We are talking about a bona fide, unquestionable racist. And so I don't understand why what you've just said to me bears any relation to white unity or anything that you've just said. She's just a racist. Isn't she? You wouldn't dispute that.
It's not about her. It's not about her. It's about
white people
coming together and supporting another white person. And it doesn't matter.
Why would you want to support a white racist?
Because I want to support free speech, and you cannot have free speech in a country.
That's fine. You can support free speech, but you also have to be accountable for what you say. Would you use the N-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would?
I do quite frequently.
You use the N-word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist. Are you?
Some would say I am. I guess according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
Yeah, well, if you use the N-word repeatedly, you are a racist, then, are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding, helping white people achieve freedom of speech, real freedom of speech, which, by the way, Shiloh Hendricks is being attacked on all fronts. They're trying to bring legal charges against her. They're trying to get her children taken away. So you were saying Carmelo Anthony, it doesn't matter. That's a different.
Sorry, but just to be
thing.
clear, you just said to me you use the N-word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be
She
appropriate
uses
to
it
use the
about
N-word?
black people.
When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
So you're an unashamed racist.
Correct.
Well, do you understand that makes you a despicable human being?
I guess so. I don't really care. I mean, why are we not talking about Shiloh Hendricks? Why are we talking about?
Well, actually, I think you've moved it on in this debate very quickly to your own racism, which explains why you've supported her in public and why you've got all these views. You see no problem with a woman shrieking the N-word repeatedly because you yourself are a despicable racist, and you've just proudly admitted that with a smug grin on your face, which is pretty horrifying, actually, for most people to have to watch. And shame on you. You're entitled to do it, and I'm entitled to call you despicable.
Well, shame on white people for allowing themselves to be systematically discriminated against in the United States. This is our country. This is a country that should be.
What do you mean your country?
Because I'm white and my
Well, there are no black people in American history. Is that what you're saying? That they've all just landed in America, invading your white country? Is that your position?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they were brought here technically.
My God, do you understand how dumb you sound?
This is stupid. This is stupid and racist. And at some point, we have to ask ourselves, do we want to reward this kind of disgusting behavior by platforming it?
I don't disagree, Marc. Listen, I didn't know she was going to say that. I don't disagree with you.
No. Yeah. I'm with you. I don't think you knew ahead of time. I'm saying at this moment, someone who's saying it's technically black people brought up. No, technically, Africans were stolen, enslaved, and they built this country. And the idea that you can justify calling a baby the N-word by saying that white people are losing the country is absurd. It's morally bankrupt, and it's honestly besides the point. I mean, all these are just distractions from the fact that she wants to justify dehumanizing and even animalizing a small black child. It's disgusting.
What is it?
Yeah, I never said that.
No, but you may as well have done because you're just an unashamed.
That's the implication of your
racist. Let me bring in Myron Gaines because you've been smirking and laughing. What's funny about any of this?
Well, I mean, I find it interesting that you guys want to virtue signal and wag the finger and say she's a racist and everything else like this.
No, she admitted she's a racist.
Well, let me
I'm not wagging a finger at anybody.
She's self-identified as a racist.
But Myron, with respect, Myron, I don't need to wag a finger when somebody says, yeah, I'm racist, I use the N-word against black people, I don't care. That's a racist. I'm not wagging any finger. I'm not accusing anybody. She is admitting it proudly. Even you can't defend that, surely.
Everybody is racist to some degree. The reality is it depends on, a lot of people want to be politically correct. A lot of people want to sit there and say, I'm not racist at all. We all have biases. We all have stereotypes. We all make jokes. We all are racist to some degree. Now, how racist you are is a whole other situation, but everyone is racist. That's number one. Next thing I want to say, see, I think this Shiloh Hendricks and Metcalf situation is a microcosm of a much bigger problem. And that bigger problem is what I call systemic organized. And what I mean by this is for decades, we've had black people literally running around with black supremacy, committing crimes, not getting accountability for their actions, and then they blame the system for it. For example, George Floyd, criminal. Ferguson, criminals. Freddie Gray, criminal. A lot of these people are criminals, and what ends up happening is they challenge the police officer, they get into a physical altercation, things go left, they die, something happens, use of force is utilized, and then they want to cry about the result, when in reality, it's not the police killing black people, it's black people killing black people. And if you want to talk about black on white violence, black people kill white people 2 times as much. And on top of that, most of the shootings in America, a lot of the times, are white cops killing other unarmed white men. So this whole systemic racism or police brutality or, oh, it's all so messed up. The reality is this. Black people have been able to get away with a ridiculous amount of privilege in America for a very long time. They're able to be racist with impunity. They're able to call white people crackers without being challenged back. And quite frankly, white America's had enough of it, and the chickens have come to roost. Now, look, am I saying that's awesome? Am I saying that's great? No, but for literally the better part of almost 2 decades since the Obama era, we've had to have BLM and liberalism shoved down our throats, and quite frankly, we're all tired of it.
Right, but just to be clear, you would have no problem with one member of this panel openly saying she uses the N-word at black people with impunity and is proud of being a racist. You have no problem with that?
My worldview on the protection of the First Amendment and freedom of speech overrides my personal feelings. She has the right to say
That's fine. You can support the First Amendment, but you can also have a personal view about what she said.
My feelings are irrelevant. The Constitution is the Constitution. That's what matters.
Oh, that's
And
fascinating. Hold on. So when it comes to chastising Black Americans about their behavior, about calling white people crackers, as you say, about their moral claims about the racist system, you can levy a judgment against Black Americans for all the things they do. But when it comes to this woman saying the N-word, and this other woman endorsing it and saying that she herself uses the N-word, now all of a sudden we can only talk about the Constitution and the legal right. We can't offer any moral judgment against it. That's disingenuous. And it's as the only Black American up here, that's quite frustrating to hear.
Here's the thing. If you want to be soft and get offended by that, that's your problem, not mine.
Let me ask Ricky.
We're not even.
Let me ask Ricky. Ricky,
this isn't about being soft any more than when you were desperately saving these white people.
Hold on. This sensitive nature that you have is precisely why we have this problem.
It's not about being sensitive. It's about I didn't articulate. Hold on. Let me finish, Myron. Let me speak, and then I'll let you respond. Myron, sure. I didn't articulate any sensitivity here. What I said, in the same way that you levied a judgment against Black people, I'm levying one against the claims you're making. I'm no more sensitive than you were when you made your claim. I'm simply saying I disagree with you. And to immediately jump to you're being sensitive is just a distraction. I'm making an argument here. Just respond to my argument.
No, and my argument to respond to that is this. Political correctness, liberalism, and making sure that we are politically correct and don't use certain words could offend people is precisely why we're in the situation that we're in. For decades, we've had to literally tiptoe around saying certain things around certain people, while the other group of people has been able to have impunity and be able to be as racist as they want to be, as violent as they want to be, without any type of consequence. And if you call it out, you're labeled a racist. The reality is this. Black people don't want to live around Black people. I don't want to live around a bunch of Black people. I move to neighborhoods where it's majority white because I know I'm safe. Now, this is uncomfortable reality that no one wants to say, so I'll say it for them. Black people commit a lot of crimes. A majority of the violent crime committed in the United States is committed by a small percentage of people, and they tend to be Black men. Look, the reality is the reality. People don't want to say it, but the political correctness and being nice and not wanting to tell the truth is precisely this problem. And the reason why you're seeing all the support for Metcalf and Shiloh, etc., is because white people have not been able to step up and say what they want to say for a very long time because of what I said before, systemic, organized, where they don't take accountability for their
All right,
decisions.
let me bring in Ricky to respond. Ricky.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to say that I agree that virtue signaling went too far, that political correctness went too far, but we're going from virtue signaling being the norm and being praised to now vice signaling being the norm and being praised. It's not just a matter of does this woman have the right to use that word? I believe that she has the right. I disagree with it. But is she now being rewarded with $500,000? Why are we rewarding people for performing vice instead of virtue? This is not healthy. This is destructive to our society. This is destructive to our social fabric, to our culture, to our ability to live with other fellow Americans. It's gross to reward someone for bad behavior. It's one thing to tolerate it, to say that she has the right to do it, but she called an autistic 5-year-old the N-word. Like, I'm sorry, but I feel like we're kind of like missing the point in the actual context. You can say that it's part of this bigger meta story of Black and white America, but it actually is just like a short little clip, and you don't even know the context of it, and it's actually gross, and if we can't just say that it's gross and bad, then I don't really know where we are.
Well, I think it's interesting to me that Lilly Gaddis, you retweeted Nick Fuentes, the white supremacist, by saying he said Black people just raised $500,000 for a cold-blooded killer who stabbed a white teenager to death. So I don't want to hear one word about the Shiloh Hendricks fundraiser. Either everyone gets to be tribal or nobody does. Why would you retweet that?
Because I agree with it. Because we have to fight fire with fire. I mean, at some point, why are
nobody does?
Why are Jewish people allowed to be tribal? Why are Black people allowed to be tribal? But as soon as white people stand up for themselves, we're labeled a racist. And by the way, you call people racist when you want them to stop talking about things.
No, I called you a racist because you admitted you were racist. Hang on. I called, just to be clear, I called you a racist because you openly, proudly admitted you're a racist. So it wasn't a question of exposing you or pointing my finger or trying to get this out of you. You proudly sat there, bold as brass, and said, yeah, I use the N-word all the time against Black people. I'm a racist and I'm proud of it. That's what you did.
Racism is just having a preference. I prefer not to live around Black people. I prefer not to live in a country where white people in our country are disproportionately attacked by Black people. Where in my country, you can have an Austin Metcalf where he asks a guy to leave, and he gets stabbed in the heart. I prefer that. That's a preference. Now, what a real racist is, in my opinion, is seeing someone as less human. I'm a Christian. I believe everyone's created in God's image. So I don't see anyone as less human. But that doesn't mean I'm not allowed to have a preference and say, I don't like what happens to be coming out of this community or that community. How is that a bad thing? How is that not just a preference?
Because you've literally made black people sound lesser humans. You don't want to live around them. You want to use the N word in relation to them, a word that you know causes that community unbelievable offense. Is that my
fault? Is that my fault? If they have bad behavior, if they want to act in a certain way, if I have to cross the street and be afraid that maybe because of the crime statistics that are very real, by the way, is that my fault or is that their fault for having bad behavior?
That's mind-boggling to me for multiple reasons. I mean, we're talking about bad behavior. You know, we've never lynched you, we've never enslaved you, we've never done any of the deep-seated structural forms of injustice to white people that white people have done to black people, and yet to claim some kind of moral superiority in the midst of, and again, in the context of a conversation where a white woman is calling a 5-year-old autistic child the N-word, and we're talking about black people's bad behavior. This is absurd. And the idea of fighting fire with fire, again, is a dishonest argument. Just to take us back to the point here, the people who are supporting Carmelo Anthony's campaign believe that he was wrongfully charged, and they're trying to get him legal defense. The people who are defending this woman are saying, yes, we know you called the 5-year-old autistic black child the N-word, and we want more of it. We approve of it. We support it. These are not the same thing. And it's bonkers to me that we couldn't all stand and say, hey, it is wrong to call a 5-year-old autistic black child the N-word. I mean, Myron, let me just ask you that question. I think this is a yes or no question. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think the woman was wrong to do what she did to that child in that park?
I don't approve of that. But what I will say is that it's very important to understand the entire context of what led us to this position. Because again, Metcalf and Hendricks is a microcosm of a much larger problem. Earlier, we were talking about tribalism when you were mentioning Nick Fuentes' tweet. Here's the thing. Black people could be as tribal as they want to be. You have people like Tariq Nasheed, Dr. Umar Johnson running around about black power and marry black women and keep it in the hood and all this other stuff. But if white people assemble and say, you know what, white power, we need to keep our nation white, they're immediately ostracized and labeled as supremacists, and they get banned off every single platform. I find that interesting. And matter of fact, you went ahead.
Isn't that the same thing?
No, actually, it is the same thing. Because here's the problem with black people.
No, it's not.
Hold on, let me finish this. Black people practice the very racism they cry about. You guys can gather together and say Black Lives Matter, Black Power, but if white people get together and say white power and gather together, they're considered white supremacists and they get banned off every single platform. Why is that Jared Taylor and Nick Fuentes are banned off every platform for practicing white nationalism, but black people are allowed to stand every single platform getting interviews on a Breakfast Club? Explain that to me. There's a two-tier situation here where black people are able to benefit off of being racist while whites are not. And what we're dealing with right now in America is literally a backlash to this black supremacy has been able to run around unchecked for a long time, and no one has the balls to call it out. Here's the other thing I want to say. Everyone's flipping out over Shiloh Hendricks and saying the N-word.
Hey, can I respond to the point you just made, though?
No, hold on. Nobody flipped out like this when the United States was getting destroyed in 2020 because of black protests destroying every liberal city in America. So I don't want to hear it about, she made $100,000 because she said the N-word. Who cares? They destroyed billions of dollars of structure because someone got killed who was a criminal. That's the problem in America. You guys get a privilege that no one else gets to enjoy. You could be racist.
You know, I think it's definitely tough to make the call here and there and where to censor. I err on the side of not censoring as much as possible, but I agree with you that the selectivity of having issues with abortion but not with these campaigns is certainly a problem. But I also want to go back to our point before too and make the point that I hate this argument that because some people were tribal, we should be tribal too. And shouldn't we want to live in a society where we say tribalism is bad in general and negative in general, and so therefore we should be erring towards individualism and not fighting tribalism with more tribalism? I think that's a net negative.
I agree. Myron, your last words on this.
Okay. Because I never got to respond to Myron's other.
The thing with tribalism, it's a natural human instinct. Like, we are literally designed to want to be in communities and want to be a part of a set of community because it ensures our survival. It's been that way since the beginning of time. So the thing is that people are typically going to align with people that share similar features, and that's why we have the tribalism we have going on right now. So the problem is it's not going to go anywhere. I think the problem is that we've had this penting up for literally decades, and this has been a response to it. You have people that are coming out and supporting someone who you guys might deem as a terrible racist, but I think it's also very important to understand how we got here, because if we're going to look at The smaller problem, we can't look at the bigger problem. And it's what I said before, unchecked systemic.
All right, Marc Lamont Hill, your last words on this.
This repeated use of the word, I think, first of all, I want to just register that as offensive, particularly as someone who doesn't identify as a member of that community and who is not, right? I think that's incredibly
I'm the definition of African-American. I'm the definition of African-American.
And troublesome. And to as a Sudanese American or an outsider who's using African-American in a very technical term, the same way that Elon Musk is an African-American, I think it is a bit disingenuous. But the bigger issue here, I think, is that, you know, this idea of equating of one side to the other side often loses track of this issue of power. To use his example, when Black people stand up and say, hey, let's build our own stuff. Hey, let's have a Black power movement. That is not the same as a white power. I'll let you speak uninterrupted. Let me finish, please, my Sudanese brother. So when a Black person says, hey, let's preserve our culture, I have no problem with Italians or Irish people or anyone else saying, let's preserve our culture. But when we don't talk about ethnicity, but actual race, and when white people say, let's preserve whiteness, it's an exclusionary practice. It's about preserving laws and practices and tactics that do harm to other people. A Black power movement was about opening stores and building businesses. A white power movement was a white power. That's the giga. A white power movement was about something very, 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 very different. A white power movement included lynchings and included Ku Klux Klan, et cetera. So let's not pretend that these are opposite sides of the same coin. When white people say, let's save our country, and even using the language of our country, when Black people built this thing, when you say that, you're talking about forcing people out of the country. You're talking about laws that discriminate. You're talking about doing harm to people. Let's not pretend these are the same thing, just like these GoFundMe campaigns are not the same thing. I'm okay if everybody gets out of the GoFundMe industrial complex. I'd love that. But let's not pretend that supporting someone for a fair trial is the same thing as supporting a grown white woman berating and calling the N-word to a 5-year-old autistic Black child. And the fact that everyone in here can't be unanimous in condemning that says exactly how they're not the same.
I totally agree. I'm going to go to Lilly Gaddis and just ask you one more time. I mean, you've been so unashamedly proud of being a racist today, proud of using the N-word whenever you feel like it. You've had a bit of time to think about this. Is that how you want people to leave this panel debate, with thinking of you as a disgusting racist?
I don't really care what people think about me. As long as you care about what people think about you, you have no power and you lose your country. What I care about is freedom of speech. And if you're not allowed to say the most offensive things in this country, you do not have freedom of speech. I don't care what anybody says. So that's the main crux of this situation. That's what I care about with this situation. It is, we have lived for far too long in a country where you can have your life destroyed. And people say, oh, she doesn't need this money. Her life's destroyed, by the way. She'll never be able to get another job. She's got children to have to support. And I don't want to live in a country where you can say an inappropriate, rude thing, which, by the way, Black people can say things to white people all the time and they never get canceled. There's no backlashing about this. I want to live in a country where people are allowed to say what they want unashamedly. And you will
well, go
not
on then,
have
say it. Say
you
the
will not have
Go on,
free speech.
go on. Say the N-word. Go on.
No.
Hang on.
I don't want you to invite this woman to say a racially harmful term in front of me, because I'm the only on here. So if she says it, I'm the victim of it. So please don't invite her for ratings to call me the N-word, because that's basically what it's going to be. There's a bunch of white people up here, you and one Uncle Tom on the left here, and asking her to say the N-word while I'm here is ridiculous. You would not sit here with a Jewish person and say, please use a Jewish slur in front of this Jewish. It's ridiculous. I understand you don't have any bad intent, Piers. I understand what you're trying to do, but we already know she's racist, and I don't want to invite a racial harm to me.
I hear you, and I accept that, and we'll leave it there.
And this is where the madness truly spirals, because Shiloh Hendricks could have simply walked up to the 5-year-old and said, hey, these aren't yours, with dignity and maturity. Instead, she hurled a racial slur like it was second nature. Now what? Social services might take her own child, because if you're that kind of parent who screams hate at someone else's kid, what exactly are you teaching yours? Meanwhile, Lilly isn't just doubling down. She's branding herself as a loud and proud racist, like it's some edgy political stance. And Myron, he's there to slap a free speech sticker on it, as if that magically makes it noble. But this is one of those rare occasions where I may have to just side with Piers, because Piers of all people finally said what needed to be said. Lilly isn't just offensive, she's despicable, and frankly, less of wearing her bigotry like a badge. If this is what some call white unity, then it's nothing but a shallow excuse of unchecked hate. So here's the real question. At what point does defending racism stop being about free speech and start being about who we're becoming as a society? Don't forget to like and share y'alls, and I hope to catch you in the next one. See you down in the comments.